Scott, we did it.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Didn't realize the hair was on.
It's so cool to connect with you. I've been looking forward to this. It took us a little while to find a date, and here we are.
Yeah, it's been a while. You've really been doing an awesome job with all of this, man. I'm really proud of you.
Oh, thank you so much. And likewise, you're just such an inspiration to me, and it's not always obvious to each other, right? Like, especially as guys, we don't always go out of our way to celebrate each other. And yeah, I really want to take some time today to celebrate you and your journey. And I'd love to find out a lot more about you and your
Thank you.
And your adventures. And and yeah, I wanted to say hello to Fantastic Traveling, who's in the chat as well, and I'll try and keep an eye out for anyone that appears. First of all, Scott, what time is it where you are?
3 a.m.
Wow. And you've just finished work, have you?
No, I don't work Sunday nights, but this is my normal schedule. Yeah, so I usually get
right.
either Monday through Thursday. I get out either 3 or 4 in the morning. Yeah, this is my normal time.
Wow, that's very very early.
Yeah,
there must be some advantages to those times. There's less people around, right?
I mean, sometimes you just, you see a deer on the way home, or just random things happen in the middle of the night. Sometimes you don't see anybody. It's kind of weird. You can drive 20 miles home and not see another single car, and that's kind of eerie almost. 2 hours later, and there's hundreds of people everywhere, and it's just, it almost feels like the world just stops moving for a little while. It's kind of weird.
I love that. It's like the hours that nature comes out as well, right? Like you were saying, like they know that's when it's the quieter time.
I've always liked. I used to do that even when I was growing up. I would go for walks in like the middle of the night and stuff, and you might see owls and skunks and things you don't see during the day. And I always thought those really.
Love it. And where in the world are you?
Massachusetts in New England. I'm pretty close to Cape Cod, which is probably area around here most people would know most. I'm about 50 miles south of Boston.
Okay, cool. Fantastic. Yeah, it's been a long time since I was near that area. I
think right? Didn't you come to? I don't know if it was Boston or New York, but you came to somewhere pretty close, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. Yeah, last summer. That's right. I was over near Washington. So yeah, that was really nice. Like, it's the first time I've really been that far south. I mean, it's not very far, but
yeah.
Yeah, it's really beautiful area.
It was actually the time you were actually within driving distance, and I was like, oh,
it's so close. It's just a matter of time as well that before we connect up.
I still have yet to actually meet anyone. I feel like I'm one of the last ones that hasn't actually met anyone in person.
Oh, there's many of us. Yeah, and it's like divine orchestration, right? Like the universe will connect us all at the right time. It will just like suddenly have that opportunity. Almost doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and it's like how's that even possible? Yeah, it's hard to have patience for it, but it shall happen. It shall. But yeah, tell me a bit about yourself. Tell me about. I'd love to know a little bit about your your life at the moment. Like what do you do for work? What are your hobbies? Tell me about yourself.
So I am a CNC machinist, and I work at a company that makes medical implants, bone plates and screws, instruments and other things. My particular cell right now makes mostly hip and shoulder implants. Here's our main platform. And I love doing this. It's been super fun. I came from doing this from working in retail from 6 years before this, and that was miserable. That everything, everyone, like anything anyone ever says about how miserable working in retail is not over exaggerated at all. It's just terrible. The work is literally, the work alone is almost impossible. And then you put the interactions with the people on top of it, and you already have more than enough you can do in a day. And then you have to spend 2 hours of the day helping people. And it's like, and they expect you to just do everything because it has to get done, and they don't care. And it's just terrible. It's such a miserable, soul-sucking entity of an industry. But no, I love doing what I'm doing now. It's really, I was doing a job with the company before for 4 years where I was working on the parts. And then for the last 2 years now, I've been making them at the machining level. And that's been really, really fun. It's something you kind of got to earn within the company to get the opportunity to do, because they have a lot of people who have been there for a long time. And it's kind of like a medium scale operation. Like there's 110 people in the building, but there's only like 30 machinists. So you kind of really have to earn like 30 to 40. So you got to earn the spot to actually get a chance to do one of those. And so that's been really cool. And I've kind of really with it. They love me. I mean, basically the job, when you really boil it down, comes down to being really good at basic math and just your general work ethic, which are just the two things I excel at more than anything when it comes to just, general life. And so I've kind of been blowing them away at just how fast I picked everything up. And I've been kind of stuck on nights now for almost 2 years, which was not the plan. It was only supposed to be 6 months to a year. And due to everything else that happened, I kind of ended up being financially obligated to be stuck there because you get an extra 15%. So, anyway, but the schedule is kind of catching up to me a little, because then I got to be up every morning all weekend to be with my daughter. So I kind of got to flip my schedule around from going to bed at like 5 o'clock in the morning Friday morning after I got to work to being up at 6 o'clock in the morning the next day. And I kind of basically just like sleep for 4 hours and I'm tired all day Friday, and then I flip it back and then I just stay up all night Sunday like tonight, and then it's just kind of rolls in circles.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot. And I just wanted to like touch on a couple of things there. Like the first is you described an industry and a job that really didn't resonate with you, and you found really, really draining. And really just to celebrate like the fact that you left that, right? You decided that's not right for me, and the way you just light up when you describe this current job of your machinist role, like I can see that passion, and it's really inspiring to see, because so many of us just spend our lives, in a kind of misery state and being drained like every day. And there's that magic that comes through when you describe like that work, and you're saying like you really feel like it's a privilege and an honor to be doing that work. And I can see that also you didn't really touch on like how it helps other people, but the work you're doing and the quality that you do the work to, like literally goes inside people to help them in their lives. And that's so inspiring. So thank you for your service.
Thank you. I mean, honestly, between working on them, the job I was doing before, and actually making them now, I mean, I've physically had in my hand tens of thousands of pieces of metal that have gone into people's bodies in the last 6 years. And for at least the last 3 years, I have also been intentionally putting my vibration into that metal, which then is in people's bodies. So I literally have a piece of me in them, which has been part of how I've kind of been behind the scenes working on this whole thing for the last few years.
Wow.
I mean, especially when I was actually working on them, to literally just have like a piece of titanium in my hand and literally just be like, I'm like, oh yeah, they're gonna feel that. Like they're not gonna know why. Like it's the same thing with like, you always see these stories with like transplant recipients, and they always feel like they actually take on sometimes like parts of other people's personalities. I'm like, I can only imagine like somebody one of these implants is just having random thoughts that are like from my vibration, and
I love that so much. It's so true, right? Like we just like many of us in this planet like bless our food and then consume it.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
when we put energy into what we create, it is often more powerful than the physical object that
Yeah,
exists. And
you know,
what an honor, what a blessing for people to receive your love. And I can like you're such a huge loving heart that I can just feel like how powerful that is for people, and how their bodies would be so much more accepting of that, right? I mean, who wouldn't? Like, oh,
I,
this is like a big hug.
yeah, it's really been something it's one of the main things, you know, kind of like in my personal life I've been working on in terms of how I've been kind of working with spirit this whole time, and of like how basically, because I kind of looked at it a few years ago that like they never pushed me down one of these, you know, more traditional paths that a lot of other people have done with either with the tarot or a lot of things that, you know, with the actual using, you know, the gifts for a career. And they basically kind of told me like, no, we want you to be one of the ones that's kind of an example of staying where we put you, or, you know, where you put yourself, and then, you know, taking now what you now know about the more, you know, in-depth nature of reality, and apply that to where you've already put yourself. You don't need to change where you are. You need to change what you're doing where you are. And I'm like, oh, okay, that actually, I can work with that.
I love that. And I just turned up my microphone. Is that better, Scott? And Agnes was saying it was
I could
a
hear
bit quiet.
more, but if they couldn't, it's a little.
Okay, cool. But that that is just what a powerful message, Scott. Like just yeah, putting the love into what you do right now, it just that changes the world. That absolutely changes the world. And I want to both celebrate where you've got to so far in your life and in your journey, and I'd also love to find out a bit more about the journey itself. Like, can you describe? So this is like a super difficult question to ask and answer, I guess. But what can you describe like what your like awakening journey has been like? Like what triggered you? Like have you always been in this kind of conscious state that you're in now? Did something happen? Was it gradual? I'd love to learn more.
I've, it's, it was sort of both. It's been really, really unique for me, I've noticed, compared to just about everybody else, because everybody else seemed like most people, to me, it was kind of, it was like it was always there, and then almost like, so I always knew something was behind the curtain. So when I finally looked, I was like, oh, hey, I was kind of expecting it to be there. It was because I was, you know, I was raised in a deep Christian faith from my mom, but on a more studious level. Like she bought me a study Bible when I was 14, and she really wanted me to cut through, you know, the bureaucracy, the dogma of religion, and get to. I mean, she bought me, you know, the red letter edition, so I specifically could tell, you know, what it was that Jesus actually said. Which, when it turns out you actually go and read it, is basically a message that is still exactly what we're saying today, but of course they manipulated it into, which is why they wouldn't even let you read what he actually said for like 1,000 years or whatever it was, because, you know, if you actually just read it, you would realize half of what they were telling you is nonsense, and they're just trying to control you. But so she always gave me this real aspect of like, don't focus on what they're telling you. Focus on what he actually said and what you feel like it means to you. And so when I'm sitting there at, you know, 12, 14, 16 years old, and I read lines like, ye are gods, and I'm like, well, what does that mean? Or, you shall do my works and many greater ones. well, what does that mean? Because y'all are sitting here telling me he was the most amazing person that ever lived ever, but he's sitting here telling me that I'm going to do greater things than he ever did. So I'm supposed to be looking at him, but he's looking at me, right? So like that to me, growing up was that one line alone has stuck with me. I was like 12 years old, and I'm like, what do you mean? And then like my mother was like the only person that would even entertain the question. You ask any pastor, minister, priest, whatever, you know, any denomination, it doesn't even matter. They're all like, oh, well, we don't know what he meant by that. It's, we can't do any of these things. And I'm like, really? Because I'm pretty sure it seems like he's telling you can. And if he's supposed to be, if everything he's supposed to say is what we go by, then why are we ignoring this thing? And I'm like, which just opened the door to what else are we ignoring? And then, by the time I was 18 to 20, I really had just being able to take the disillusionment off of the church made me kind of take it off of everything else. So then 2011 happens, or 2008 happens. I graduate into the financial crisis, literally couldn't even find a job for 2 years, had to apply 3 times just to Walmart to get hired there. And so then I get stuck in retail for 6 years. And, now I'm getting into my mid-20s and I'm looking around the country and I'm just like, what is going on and why? And then I just start pulling back curtain after curtain, which really got facilitated by when I first started this job. So I finally get sick of doing retail. I kind of just have like a meltdown one night and I go on Facebook and I put this post that is literally just like, it's like 2:00 in the morning. And I put down this post that's just like, I'm just sick and tired of coming home angry and exhausted to my family. Like, does anyone else know? Does anybody have any other place that's working? And my cousin that's hiring, and my cousin just happened to be working at this place. So she texted me, like I woke up the next morning to her text that just said, hey, send me your resume. I'll give it to them. And a month later, and
that's so cool. And so you describe, first of all, I want to acknowledge, you said that that your journey is very unique, and I really love that, because I feel like everyone's journey is unique, and the uniqueness, like there's magic in it. There's magic in every single person's unique journey. It's just like our lives are so unique. So are the awakening experiences that we go through. And I, like my awakening was far more dominant. There were things that happened earlier in my life, and everything from dreams and seeing ghosts to lots of magical things, but consciously I didn't shift or attempt to start to shift my reality around me until November 2017, when I meditated for the first time in a Kundalini yoga session, and I saw the planets and the stars and the universe being created in this meditation. Is like, I'm just going to meditate every day from now on because this is amazing. And that was me. I was hooked on, I guess, that awakening journey. And you're describing a journey where actually you were given the key early in your life, and it was like, and then you're carried this, right? You're holding it. It's like on one hand you're like, oh, so I could do things bigger than, there's God in me, and that there's I could do things that other people believe are kind of only unique to these others. Actually, I can do these things and better. In one hand you're holding that key, and in the other hand you're like, oh, but I have to graduate and get a job and get on with this life, with this program. How did you find balancing those two?
It's still a struggle every day, honestly. They're like, to me, especially oh man, it's always been, because to me they were never, I still to this day really don't have the visuals like that. That's why I love watching your morning meditation videos so much, because the things that you describe don't happen to me at all. Never have, still don't. I'm sure they will one day, but it's just not. Basically what they keep telling me is like, oh, hey, if we gave you everything right now, what would you actually strive to have later? And I'm like, well, that's, I get that. But by frequency alone. I should be able to do just about everything. So like, why not? And they're like, well, I mean, and then, you know, you'd just be, I mean, if we just have one of you all of a sudden start flying around and using, you know, telepathy to build things, and people are going to freak out. And I'm like, well, you know, but so what? Like, who cares at this point? Like,
Yeah, that's right.
so it's always been weird to me, because it's like I had the key and I knew where the door was, and yet it was only from a few people, mostly my mother, and a few key things along the way. Like I remember, I remember a time when I was 12 years old, I had a random conversation with a family friend, and they, you know, they looked at me and they're like, well, you know, we just got in this really deep conversation, and they looked at me and they're like, wow, you know, you really are like really wise for a kid your age, you know? And like there were a lot of things like that just got me thinking, like they made me realize that I just don't think and see the world like other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you know, I would turn around and at the time trying to, you know, have conversations with my friends at like 14, 15, 16, 17, and like they're not thinking about any of this stuff. They're literally just games, weekend, whatever, you know, later into partying. Like they just, and it was like, you know, like I played football for a couple of years. I got, you know, involved in some of this stuff. I did a little bit of partying, you know, we got involved in all this stuff, but the whole time there was always something in my mind that it was like, okay, I know like something else is coming. I don't know what it is, but then like, and then when I get into my mid-teens and my mother ends up on this like newsletter thing with this pastor that is literally on a weekly basis giving her, like, is on this email chain that is like sharing news stories from around the world and pointing out the events from Revelation that are actually happening. So now, like, I'm like, you know, 15 years old, and she's got it in my head that like we literally are like these things are actually happening. Like, this is what it said in the book. This is what just happened. So, you know, and then so then I'm looking around like, okay, is this really happening? Like, because I mean, I read Revelations like 3 times, and it gets pretty weird. Like, I mean, like a third of the planet dies. It gets kind of sketchy. Like, is this actually happening? I don't, you know. So then I'm just pondering that for a few years, and then like we did a thing. One of the most eye-opening things I would say for me when I was 16. The church we were part of was really big into. The pastor was really big into like prophetic ministry and actually like the actual physical application of the Spirit. And he's a really, really powerful minister, and he's actually gone all around the world, most notably in Romania, and trained a lot of pastors. And he actually is probably the most connected person still, you know, like in the faith that I know of. And he really, so he did this thing where he would go around and at the end of service every week, and he would just put out a general call to anybody that feels like Spirit is asking them, you know, come forward and we'll pray for you. And, you know, kind of like baptism by Spirit kind of thing. And my sister went up one day, one of the last times we actually went to church, and, you know, they had the whole thing where it's like the 4 people all stood around her with their hands on her, and he said the speech, which I don't know, I forget the exact words, but it's a good couple minutes long. And then he, you know, he literally just touched her on the forehead, and she passed out, and she hit the floor. And here I am at 16 years old, and I'm like, well, that literally just happened to my sister. So something is going on here. Something is real. There is now a tangible aspect to whatever this is. So now I'm like, okay, I don't know what this is. I don't know what's going on, but there's something people are missing, and I need to figure it out, because clearly there was kind of like the turning point. It developed into the turning point that made me look at it as if like, okay, obviously I'm one of the few people that really sees something else going on here, and that means something. And now I need to know what that is. And it started turning it more into a broad sense and more of an individual sense of like, when I really started to realize, getting into like my mid-20s, where like just nobody else else was seeing or thinking about any of these things. Like, even all the people I went to church with, like, it still blows me away. Like, I used to go to Bible study when I could, when I wasn't, when I had the schedule available for the church I'm going to now. And, you know, we would go to Bible study, and my wife and I at the time, we would be the only people at the table under like 55 years old. Like everybody else, the other like 10 people in the room are from, you know, the age of like, you know, 57 to like, I think the oldest was like 84. And we're reading through some part in the Old Testament, and Abraham and Isaac, when he goes to sacrifice Isaac up on the mount, and the whole thing, and then he casts out Ishmael, and you know that whole thing starts. And I looked at him, and I'm like, oh yeah, and 6,000. And I you know, we get done reading, and he kind of pauses, and I look at the pastor, and I go, yeah, and 6,000 years later, the Arabs and the Jews are still fighting each other, and for some reason they haven't figured this out yet, that this is how this all started, even though it's literally they're the ones that gave us the book that tells us this is how this started. And the other 10 people in the room turn to me, and these are people 40, 50, 60 years older than me. And they look and go, wow, you really have a deep understanding of this, don't you? Like, and I'm like, no, it's literally look at what it's the history of what happened and look at the state of the world. It's sense. And that's when it broke to me that, like, because like the whole time growing up, this is one of the, like, still to this day, it's hard for me. I struggle with a little that for some reason, apparently people just don't understand the meaning of the parables that Jesus tells. And apparently I had a very deep understanding of these when I was like 10, and and how people don't, because I hear, like, you know, they do these, you know, they get their little book that they read through, and they bring the same things up every single year, and they always go through the parables every year. And I always look around and I look at the faces on people, and they're all just sitting there with this weird face trying to like figure it out. Like, how do I fit in? How does this work? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, guys, it's so obvious. It's just like the prodigal son. I'm sorry. This is so obvious. He's literally talking about all of us. It's so obvious. He's talking about all people. And all you have to do is just choose something different, and the path opens for you graciously, and like as if it's waiting for you. Literally, your is waiting for you. All you have to do is just desire it. It's just so obvious. And everyone focuses on the part that, like, oh, but that wasn't fair. That's the whole point. Yeah. It's not fair. That's why it's awesome. Which cracks me up, because that's literally one of the lines that, like, you know, everyone always remember those like 2 or 3 things that their parents always said, that like, and this, you know, you better get used to it, kid. Life's not going to be fair. And I'm like, when you actually realize the positive aspect of that is that, yeah, it's not fair. And that's actually amazing, because you actually have the opportunity to step into your abundance, your path, your life. It's literally any given second. You can wake up any day of your life, and whether through your choosing or through things you've already set in motion you didn't even realize, things literally will just happen. It'll just change. The space of 1 hour will change the course of your entire life. And the amount of times, like, because those instances are so few and far between, people just focus on everything else in between, and they think that's where life actually happens, and it's not.
Yeah, really, that's so beautiful.
Because we're in such limited, and this is another problem I have now in the macro aspect from how deep I've actually delved into myself. People, you know, we have this hurried nature to everything, because, you know, now we're only living for like 100 years, give or take 80 to 100 years. Whereas in my Akashic memory that I have now downloaded and integrated, I mean, I have fairly recent incarnations lasting for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of years on this planet. So not only has it been done, it's going to be done again very soon. Possibly not in this lifetime, it doesn't feel like, but definitely in the next one. Like, if you people, like,
That's so cool.
we're going to be sticking around for at least 1,000 years at a time. It
And
by the next, like, if not, we're working on a lot of technologies to enhance this stuff in this lifetime. But
yeah, I'm sure it'll happen. And yeah, I want to like connect with what you're saying about the simplicity. Like you talked about the parables, and then also about like your interpretations of what's written, and also your experiences, like when you're describing like seeing things physically, like you're seeing a pastor, like, you know, like laying hands on someone and having such a profound effect, and how that affected you. And I definitely resonate with the simplicity of our awakening journeys. Like you said, you can change your life in an hour and less, and a lot of the changes in my life have happened in often in minutes. like like my awakening was within the first 5 minutes of meditating, and I think it was the first time I'd meditated in my life, and I was age 40. I was like, oh, this is a totally different reality, and it's really simple. Like if I'd spent that 5 minutes earlier in my life, yeah, maybe I would have carried that key with me for a longer period. Um, and that also my life, like I just shut it down. I was just like really from I think around the age of like 18, 19, I at very least I started compartmentalizing magic. I was like, so there is magic in the universe, and it lives in this little box. And sometimes it's like a little CD case that I would like listen to my music. So there's the magic, listen to that, dance around, drink some beer, maybe go out with my friends, and then put it back. And it was like that's like the exclusive time for when these things happen, and everything else is like is super predictable, and and it's just annoying when it's not predictable, and it's controllable, and it's annoying when it's not controllable. And I found that in parts that life had its simplicity. Like I didn't worry so much about the rest of the planet for decades. um, and I was like that guy. I forget the character in the Matrix who wants to go back. Like he sells out Neo and he
yeah,
wants to go back into the Matrix, and he's like, I don't care if it's like a steak or not. If it tastes like a steak,
yeah,
it is a steak
like,
to me. And I feel like one thing that's really powerful is that you're describing, your unique experience as being so simple, like your superpower, this gift of being able to see very clearly the messages shared in writing, but you're also describing it happening in the life around you. Is like that intuitive power is is both an incredible gift and a key for you to carry. And then it's also a reflection of how it is for others. Like we can choose to ignore it. We can say it doesn't matter. Like everyone else must be like this. They must have this ability. I just haven't like connected with those people, or maybe like why aren't they paying attention, or maybe they're just stupid, or it's easy to create a dualistic view of the world and say there's people like me with my gift, and then there's everyone else.
yeah,
And one thing I saw or see more and more recently is as you express your gift more, you lead by example. And it's almost like there's a whole spectrum of everyone around us, which are the spectrum includes one end, those that just think we're completely crazy and never want to entertain anything like that in their lives, no matter how much it resonates with them or not, all the way through to people who already feel exactly the same way you do, but they don't want to express it, like they're scared. And there's a whole universe of reason in this lifetime and past lifetimes about how it's easy to succumb to that fear. And I don't want to hold space for both ourselves and for when we've experienced this, and for everyone experiencing who's watching this, is that there's definitely moments of fear wrapped around these gifts, You
Oh,
know, it's like
um,
it's like God, it's like the source of the universe has given you this gift, and you're like holding this key, and you're like, if I like, if I use this, what happens to me? What happens to my family? What happens to my job? Um, and and I and that's my next question for you is like, how do you navigate that today? So forward winding to today, where you have a job and you're doing night shift, you have a family, you have a you know a life and loved ones to support, and yet you also hold this key still. How do they work together?
it really, that's the last 5 years has gotten really strange. So then so it all ramps up to when, so it starts as I'm going through my 20s, it all gets a little bit more and more intense where I sort of, basically kind of how you're describing, I really start to separate myself from the people around me, sort of without, ever really telling anybody, but I'm looking at life now as like, okay, I'm clearly very different. And though I feel like there are other people out there who are doing something similar, clearly nobody I'm seeing in front of me, even though they say, like, this is the thing that I just, I really, I don't know. At the same time, it's also exactly what gave me the keys, that the little keys that unlocked, that put the stepping stones in place, the stepping stones, I should call them. But at the same time, I look back and I'm like, how am I the only one that saw all of this? Because there's so many times when, even today, like, I listen to, pastors give sermons, and they talk about things like the voice in the stillness. They talk about things like, actually, they talk about things that actually are our spiritual gifts, like telepathy.
Telepathy. Yeah.
There we go. What do you want to call it? Clairaudience, clairvoyance, and all these things. They describe the actual gift itself, but then they tell you the gift doesn't exist. And I'm like, no wonder why they won't work for you, because you just, for some reason, won't believe that you can do this thing, even though you have been given every example in the world. I mean, this is literally the point of the 12 disciples. They took, of, it turns out, of which I was one, but that's another story. But they literally took 12 regular dudes and gave them superpowers. And then he only sticks around for 3 years, and then they go off for 3 decades and do magic all over the whole world, all over the known world. They walk like 40,000 miles or something, all over the world, like to every corner of the known world. And to this day, it still has like a lasting impression in Africa. They're actually more Christian than any other continent in the world. And like, it's it's just mind blowing that it's like they gave you so much proof, and just because somebody took it away and told you you couldn't, you decided to believe that person. And I don't, there's just something inside of me that has raged against that
Yeah.
since I was a child. And it finally just made me kind of step back away from people and say, okay, I guess if you're not going with it, I guess that just means I have to do more of it to show you that, like, clearly I have come here to be, at that point, I didn't know if I wanted to term it as in like chosen by myself or chosen by them. Like, I took on this role that was kind of like I am a knight for Christ, basically. Like, I wanted to be like, I basically made it so I was like a samurai or a knight, or, in service to this mission. And I don't know what the plan is for me, but I know I'm here and I'm ready and I'm committed. So when you need me, I'm right here. Basically was like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but I know I see something people don't. And so then my daughter's born, and, with a terminal birth defect that ended up requiring her to have a liver transplant when she was 19 months old. And this sent all of that crashing down for me so hard that it finally made me turn inward and actually, because now for the first time in my life, what I believed wasn't holding up anymore. Because I sit there and I read that, blessed is the righteous man who walks the true path and all, yada, yada. So I know my prayer has weight because I feel that whatever it is it's describing is me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm living, saying it, I'm doing it. I've always been the one with the generous, open heart to see the best in people. I'm literally living as he wants me to live. I know I am. So things should start showing that in my life, right? And then my daughter was born, and I had to watch her die every day for almost over a year and a half. And I mean, we literally almost lived at the hospital for 2 years. I mean, we were there for 3 months straight, twice. It really, and that just made me look. That was the first time I ever questioned my faith. That was because faith above all else. From my brother committing suicide when I was 7 to watching how that affected my mother through my entire life, because it basically drove her into depression that just took 20 years to kill her. Which still my family is reeling from even 4 years later. It really, through all of that, through everything else that happened in my life, through all the rejection, through the betrayal of friends, through just not understanding why anybody else was thinking anything else that I did ever, my faith was always there, rock solid, my rock to stand on. I knew, at least if I had that, everything else was messed up, but me and Jesus, we were tight. We were going to be all right. And then that happened. And then I finally had to look at him and go, what the hell is going on? Because I did everything right. I did what you told me to do. I'm living, literally, I am the personification. Like we did one of these things in Bible study where it still cracks me up to this day. Is I want to bring this up to him, and I still don't think he'll believe me. But thank you. I appreciate that. I almost derailed myself there for a second. So we did this little quiz where it was like, hey, how much like Christ do you think you are? And it was basically, it gave us a list of I think it was 40 different scenarios, and you had to pick an option of 1 through 5. How would you, it was a scenario and then what somebody did. And then it was 1 through 5. Do you feel that was, do you strongly agree or strongly disagree on, on what they said? Mm-hmm. And based on what I came out with, so the pastor himself, on a scale of 1 to 100 on this test, comes out with a 52. And then it turns out everybody else has a 30 something. And then he turns to us and he says, I'm still sitting there figuring mine out, because I'm just, I'm getting real in depth into this thing. Because I saw, he put it in front of me, and I kind of smiled to myself, and I'm like, okay, this isn't him testing me. This is you testing me, or me testing me. I see what's going on here. So I go through it, and I'm taking my time really thinking about every answer. I don't know what the answers mean yet, because he didn't show us that part until after. He didn't show us, we didn't know how the answers correlated to the score until after. So I'm filling it out, and I'm really, really from the heart, just really. And so everybody else kind of finishes, and I'm still filling out the last couple of things and comparing my score and figuring out what my actual thing is. And he's like, oh, I get a 52. And he's like, I really want you to know that, for anyone who actually considers themselves a disciple, just about nobody other than a pastor really should have a score over a 50, because, we really just can't be that much like him. And I met mine out. My score was a 78.
Wow.
Wow, really, Scott? You don't think you overestimated yourself a little? And I'm like, no. I literally
especially when you don't know what's being scored.
Yeah, I didn't.
That's phenomenal.
How the score was, and I gave you the true answer from my heart about how I actually feel about these situations. I'm sorry that I just care about people more than you do. And that's coming from a very high bar, because there's a reason I go to this church, as someone who, he really is a genuine, amazing soul, a very loving man who has inspired me a lot to really hold on to that center of love that I have. And that really is what I take away from him still, is that honestly, I feel like him and I worked together before in lives, and I feel like he and I have this contract that I I feel like I'm going to pick up from where he's left off, and I feel like he kept that inspiration of love in my heart, because
Oh, that's really beautiful.
anyone I've seen, even if he won't fully, he gives all the credit away, which is inspiring in and of itself, especially within the faith community, because he literally lives that humble lifestyle to a T. I mean, there have literally been times all the time when, you know, he does things and we try to give him credit. Like the congregation will do like a little announcement like, hey, we really want to give him credit for this. And he stops us every single time and just points up and says, no, he gets all the credit. Like, I didn't do anything.
I love that. And Scott, I just want to take a moment and hold space for you sharing your big events in your life, like that trauma that you've been through, that you and your loved ones have been through. Well, thank you for sharing and holding space for you. There's some big journeys. And
so then,
and I also want to reflect a little bit on a lot of what you've been describing about your journey so far, and it's still a big part of your life, your religion. And I love my journey in this lifetime has definitely been a lot of healing around religion and a lot of my past lives. And I wanted to just reflect on a past life I had. I won't go into all the detail. It wasn't that long ago. It was about 200 to 300 years ago. And I did what I do now. So I was like, hi, it's John. And today in meditation, each morning, like almost exactly the same practice, daily practice. But I was a monk and a priest in that lifetime. And I'd write scripture. So I would write down, not today in meditation, but I'd write like the rest of it.
mm-hmm.
And then I would take it to my peers and to my leaders, and I would say, look, like, this is what God's saying to me today. And they're like, no, you're nuts. Like, you're crazy. You don't channel God. And I'm like, well, whoever this is, like, this is amazing stuff, right? Like, we should pay attention to this. We should teach this.
Yeah.
And it feels like sometimes I had supporters and sometimes I didn't. And then overall it didn't go well. Like, that lifetime ended really badly. And there was just a really I think a lot of it was like the human nature of wanting to control and wanting to only allow, like, in that lifetime for me, the voice of God to only come through certain people. And it was almost like it was very specific to my job. Like, I wasn't in a job that allowed me to talk to God. And as I reflect on this lifetime and also on your journey, and it's really beautiful that both I feel free now to just express those channel messages that I have each day, and that also they resonate with you, and in a way that I don't pretend, like, the human part of me doesn't pretend to understand all of it. Certainly not in the moment. Some are simpler than others. Some take me quite a few days or weeks to kind of integrate and to really get my head around. Even after I've written a song and, like, even spoken about it, like, it's magic, right? And it takes time. It doesn't need to be understood in the moment, and maybe never understood. So yeah, I wanted I just take a moment to reflect on your journey and some of our synergies, and I'll need to stop at about the hour, but I wanted to connect a bit more with you. Like, you're describing those moments of this kind of doubt in your life, where you've hit this challenge with your faith. You're like, well, how can all this happen when I'm scoring so high on, like, I'm like Jesus scale, like, I'm doing all the right things. So what's going wrong? Like, how did you navigate through that and get to where you are today?
So that was a really, really crazy time. I mean, that was really my like make or break kind of moment. That was like, because at first, you know, I mean, literally, we literally brought her to her 1 month physical, and the doctor walks in the room and looks at her and goes, and literally like, hi, mom and dad, and then looks at her and goes, oh, and we're like, what is that? And he's like, do you guys know what jaundice is? Because her eyes were still so yellow that he could see it across the room.
Oh.
Because what had actually happened is she had her bile ducts in her liver were damaged, and she wasn't draining the bile out of her liver, which they originally tried to repair with a stent and a special surgery that they tried to do that didn't work, and then she ended up eventually needing a transplant. So when it first happens and we get the news, obviously the initial shock, but then within a few months, I start seeing it as an opportunity that, okay, hey, I put this challenge in front of me because I know I can handle it. I know I can get through this. My faith is going to carry me, and I'm going to turn this into a miracle. I'm going to show the world the power of my faith in this miracle to heal my child. Mm-hmm. And so I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, and then I started learning a little bit about energy work, and I tried, see if I can actually try to do this. And it felt like what I was doing was working, putting healing on my daughter, and then still nothing happened, just worse and worse and worse and worse until it took somebody outside of us to actually facilitate this. And that's when I look at it as, oh, okay. So there's just a grander thing. Like basically how you said, like, it's not going to be kept in the box of me. This is like whole thing you're trying to open, and I'm just one catalyst that's going to open part of the lock for the rest of the world. Like I just have one part of the key that's going to fit with a dozen others, and we're going to open the master lock to this whole thing, basically, is what I came to realize. But it eventually so she gets the transplant, and then a couple months later, I'm finally looking at it as, what just happened? Like, why was I not enough for that? And because I felt like I should have been. So is there something more you need from me, or you can give me, so that I can be that if need be next time? Because I felt like it should have. I felt like there was something else out there, and it just reached this tipping point where I literally just said to myself, is any of this actually real or not? Because you've gone out of your way time and again in a dozen different examples from across my life to this point to prove to me that there's something there, but that something just let me down. So what is it? Is there more, or is this all just crap that I'm going to walk away from right now? And I finally just laid down one night, and I remember just saying to myself, if you are actually out there, show me. And damn, did they ever. This is the only, still to this day, the only real true like visual experience that I've had, like in terms of an actual third eye experience. Like I was laying there in my bed, and it felt like, it literally felt like my consciousness left my body and like just went out across space-time, and I was just in the most intense, loving vibration I still have yet to feel. And like there's just nothing, like the pure Christed light is the only way I know how to describe this. Mm-hmm. And it literally felt like I was floating in the middle of a crystal, because everywhere, like it was so bright that it felt like my eyes were open, even though I knew they weren't. And I felt like I could look around, and in every direction, it just had that rainbow shimmer of a crystal. Like I'm just inside of a giant crystal. And I just all of a sudden had this feeling that I now know, we call download. That was just literally like, and I'm literally, my whole body is like almost, my entire body is almost floating off of the bed. Like I can only keep I think it was literally only the back of my head and my heels were all I could keep on the bed. And the whole rest of my body is like, and I'm just like, and I stand up, and just, I mean, literally the weight of 100,000 years hits me,
Mm-hmm.
and I hit the ground, and I just start crying for 20 minutes. I couldn't stop. And the only thought I could have, and the only thing I just kept repeating over and over again is, we are so stupid. And it just made me realize, because I mean, they literally, I mean, granted I asked for it, but they hit me with everything at once. I mean, literally from like I am until now. And they just, guy, here you really want to know? Here you go. Boom. And it literally took me like a year to process this entire thing. Like, which is when I started making the videos, like in the middle of this, when I first started posting, because I finally just had to get some of these thoughts out of my head, because they were driving me nuts. I mean, I would literally be sitting there at work and I can't concentrate because I'm just like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Does that mean this? And I'm just like, okay. And I mean, like basically like a year straight of feeling like I'm having a mental breakdown, and knowing that I can't tell anybody any of this stuff because I've already proven to myself in the last 20 years that they don't think like this. So they're definitely not thinking like this. Like, and it literally was within 3 days after that experience was when I believe when Paul started his channel, and then it was about 3 months after that I found him, and then I started finding all of you. And it honestly only is through finding you and Paul and Nadine and Nancy and everybody else that has literally just made me feel like I'm not crazy. Like, because I already had felt like I already knew I was different, and then I felt like I was crazy. And then life was really starting to unravel. Like my sense of reality was starting to unravel. And then I started finding you guys, and at least it finally just proved to me that I wasn't the only one on the whole damn planet trying to do this. That I wasn't the only one on this mission. That we might actually, because I started really feeling, because when they hit me with the scope of it, I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, not only, it's not, first of all, I mean, okay, we got to start with this country, then we got to start with this planet, then we got a whole solar system to fix, then we got
the universe.
Yeah. We got 10,000 years worth of work to do. We got to start something. I don't even know where to start. And like, what? I'm like, this is, because it took us the last, I don't know, 500,000 years to unravel the whole damn thing. And I'm like,
That's
and it just
amazing.
And I'm sitting here and I'm just, really, so I really want you to know personally how much I've appreciated you. And I mean, being there every single day, John. I mean, you and Genevieve are the only ones still. I don't know how you guys do it. I really don't. Seeing what all of us have gone through and knowing what the intense, insane ups and downs that I've gone through, I don't know how you can possibly get up and just be on this every single day. And it's amazing. And I really just thank you so much because it's so inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
Really,
and likewise, like when I first like connected with you, and yeah, you mentioned Paul, Nadine, Chakra Bunny, like Nancy, and there's so many people. Like when you, I feel like when you hit a vibration and that you feel lonely in it. You hit part of your journey, and you're like, how do I like fit this whole universe in my head in this little human form and pay my bills and like have relationships with people and like still get on with this life. And I found that so helpful, because sometimes it's an amazing, often it's been such an amazing coping mechanism to just sit and talk, and I always love about Paul, the way he like so freely blends his life and his darkness and his light and his the things that just annoy him or are super bright and light, like they're just all together at once. And I feel I was chatting with Nadine last night. We were chatting a lot about our ancestries and like how they trace through DNA, but also through soul incarnations. And how they're connected with the energy grid of the planet. And it was just like, I was like, I love having friends like this. This is amazing because I feel free. I feel truly free when I connect with people. And yeah, to your point of like how do we do this? Like a big part of my journey has been like, as you can tell, just like turning up like every single day. Like if we've got a universe to fix, like we're all in this together, and just doing a little bit every day. And that sometimes that little bit for me every day is just a few minutes, like as little as like 20 minutes. And that I do a lot in that 20 minutes. So I do like a 5-minute meditation, a 1-minute video about what I shared, what I experienced, and then I'd do a song of about 10 minutes, and then I'd edit as fast as I can, and then I'd just get on with my day. And sometimes that's all it takes to realize your dreams, right? Is just quite a small amount of time, but it's the practice. It's the practice because it makes you fit. My practice makes me face my shadows, including my shadow of, creating sometimes because I feel like I haven't done enough. Like my lack, my lack of abundance is sometimes why I've created,
You
and that's a big shadow to face.
broken the record for albums now. You've almost doubled it. Like,
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, 35 albums.
yeah,
Um,
really, because it just, and the thing for me is like to know where we're going, because this is the biggest thing for me now, is because they didn't just hit me with everything that happened before. They hit me with like the whole quantum thing. Like, I know where we're going. I know what this looks like in 1,000 years, 10,000 years, a million years even. I know where we're going. I don't know if I'm looking through the eyes of my future self or if I'm just tapping into the energy. I can't tell you explicitly what that is, but I know where we're going. And to see these baby steps we have to take to, like, the fact that because I've kind of detached myself from, like, I haven't, I gave up watching the news like 3 years ago. I don't care anymore. I do watch some independent journalists just to try to keep tabs on what's still going on in the daily life of the world, so we don't all blow ourselves up here. But because I know I'm still needed to push the energy one way or the other, so I try to at least stay on top of general current events. But it's disheartening a lot that to hear the way that some people still talk. There are a few people out there that I have really gravitated towards that are really on the vibration of love and unity, and they really, disarmament, and they really want to, they see the vision of making, a Jazara compliant planet, within our lifetime. And that at least is inspiring, even if they don't really have the scale of the vision, at least they understand this is what they want to work towards. And I know that's where I come in. The scale is where I come in. See, I don't have the means to do it myself, but I have been sitting here watching for the last 5 years, and I know who does. I know who I need to bring together. I just need to be given the authority to do it. Like, I don't know how. I don't know if like starting a nonprofit or just trying to or what it would be. But I have this vision of like bringing everyone from all of like every walk of life that there is, no matter what actual frequency they're on, as long as they're in the vibration of unity, we can work together to bring this planet together. Now, whether it's, people on this level, like, you, me, Genevieve, Nadine, or like Heather, like Activation Vibration, or I keep seeing Sahara Rose. This woman is doing amazing things all over the place. People like her, or Native New Yorker. I wish I actually knew his name, but
Gil.
Gil. Okay, he is incredible. He would absolutely be one of the first people I would want to get involved. People like that from our level that have the spiritual power and vision, and then the people with the worldly connections, because people that I've been following, that I know, whether it's, somebody like Joe Rogan that's got millions of contacts, all over the world that he could, you know, or people like Eric and Brett Weinstein. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, people that are making advancements in quantum physics and that actually have this vision of basically getting us out into space and traveling the universe. And I'm like, well, I know that's where we end up. So where are the people that help us get it there? You know, and it's exactly, it's just, I have the
That's
vision. I have the,
really beautiful.
I just need the people. I know what we need to do, and I know who we need to do it. I just need to get everyone. I need to get these 100 people all in the same room, and then they're all going to realize we're all working on the same thing from different angles, and then the whole thing just moves exponentially faster because then they can all facilitate each other. Whether you just have the people with the idea that need the money, or the people with the money that need the idea, or just the people that have both but don't have the vision, that just need the creativity, because we got plenty of that. Because for me, I mean, you know, one of the things that as I've delved through my Akash, I've come to realize I have always been a very prominent civic leader, even in, you know, my incarnations that are still around, whether they're in, I mean, I'm on the councils of both Orion and Arcturus, and I'm here to be on this council. I just don't know how we form it. I know the people I want to be on it because it's basically our group. It's actually, it turns out, was literally the point of why that all came together, because most of us are going to be part of the core council when we finally do form it at some point in the next decades. But, you know, it's like, I literally remember saying it. I didn't actually feel the vision of it fully at the time, but I remember saying it at some point in like 2019 or something, that these live streams feel like our first council meetings. I remember saying that specifically, and it just, I absolutely know that at least half a dozen of us are going to be there.
That's so cool. And I love what you're saying. Like, when we think about our weakness as a human race and as a planet, our greatest weakness is our separation.
Yeah.
And our greatest strength is our unity, is our coming together. And with that unity comes a lot of forgiveness, comes a huge amount more love, and love that many of us have never experienced before. You know, love that means that all those dark parts inside of each of us that we often choose to silo and to put away and to, you know, stick in a cupboard with all the other junk, like, it can just stay in there. No, you're not part of me. You're just like that dark stuff. Other people don't have dark stuff. Like, they've got great houses, you know, and we hide that away. And it means for each of us, like, really facing all of our shadows and all of our demons inside of us, and working through that healing. Because, like you say, I think it's a really beautiful way to reflect on the opportunity that we have now, is to obsess less about the past and obsess more about the future, like creating that future that we really genuinely want. That, you know, a planet of unity might be terrifying for the aspects of ourselves and others that want to control, but when we think about, like, the amplification of like the magic that exists in all of us, like this source of this creator that echoes and is amplified through all the uniqueness in every single soul, you bring it together, and you bring together a planet that is capable of helping not just itself and its own survival, but helping many others. And I think that's why we get a lot of interest from our galactic brothers and sisters around the universe. They see that we're like this catalyst in the universe. Like, if you can, like, coexist as darkness and light together, and integrate and bring that balance, because there's balance that just goes on for eternity, right? It's like darkness and light are always fighting, and yet there's no need to fight, really. We can be just that spectrum of light, and just be, and just be together. We don't need to to worry that there's some parts of either us or others that are outside of that spectrum of light. It's all one. I go ahead.
And that did end up being something I struggled with the absolute most, especially in breaking, you know, what aspect of, I'd say, the Christian programming I did pick up was they really do go out of their way. You know, some of them, not all of them, but enough of them, more than enough, go out of their way to really give you this attitude of, like, oh, you know, try to help people. But, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, you know, you're doing what's best for you. So if they won't listen to you, I mean, well, I guess they're kind of on their own. And it feels like that's pretty much the attitude the church in general has had for hundreds of years now, and is pretty much why we're in the state we're in. I mean, you know, I don't want to, again, derail the conversation any more than I have to, but I literally was the guy that nailed the thing to the door of the church telling you to cut the crap, and 400 years later, you still haven't. So, you know, I tried starting a Reformation already. That didn't work. You know, it only made 151 more denominations. So I'm going to try a new idea this time, but I don't know what that is yet. It's,
Well, I love your idea. Like you mentioned earlier, like you just need the authority to take your ideas forwards of connecting others in unity, and you are that authority. You are you are your authority. You are just as equal as every other being on this planet, just as capable of changing this world. And I think that's a big thing to our journeys, right? Is that I felt at the start of my, like that kind of event that I had in 2017, where I consider it to be like a big awakening. I've had lots since, but it's like since that moment, my reality changed from just an average guy who I thought I was really just largely enslaved by the program around me, this matrix reality, to then realizing that actually we have a great responsibility, and that great power, each and every one of us individually, to change the world. And it's a big thing to accept. It's hard, right? Like we're saying at the start, like you're holding that key, and it's like, oh, this is literally a key that can help the entire world. And it's really, really hard to then look at the rest of the world and say, well, this is as much my responsibility as myself. Everything that's going wrong is as much my fault as everyone else. And that for me was quite a shocking experience. And just before my awakening, like I went through 2-3 years of almost like not so much like a life depression, but spiritual depression. Like I gave up. Like I was like, this planet's ruined. I was like, oh no, it is just in a terrible state. How could anyone recover this? Until I then started my daily practice and realized, oh, actually, it's maybe not as hard as we thought. Like maybe actually each individual has their own little bit of a key to this big lock to unlock our future of happiness, of unity, of equality, and that we just all need to play our part. We all need to stand up, holding our gift, and say, yeah, I'm ready to help this planet.
Yeah, there's a lot of inspiring things going on. And just this year in particular has really been inspirational. Because before, for the last 4 years, it seems like it was all the same people just doing more work. This year was the first time new people are coming out of the woodwork and just taking it and running with it. You know, like I mentioned, Sahara Rose, or even politicians. I mean, I listen to podcasts with politicians a lot, and the mindset shift of we are no longer doing business as usual. This is over. We're not doing a military-industrial complex anymore. We're done with the stupid wars and wasting all this money, which, oh God, yeah, I could go on a tangent alone of how this country has single-handedly ruined this planet in the last 100 years, but that's beside the point. It's, boy, yeah, that work alone, just to repair the actual reputation of this country, is going to take another couple of decades. That's daunting. And that's not one I don't know what to do. It's like, and I have gone back and forth with Spirit on this, like, in my guides, like 6 times, to where sometimes they feel like it's like, okay, maybe you should run for like state office or something. And then other times they're like, no, that's pointless. Don't do that. And like they keep seesawing me back and forth, kind of based on probably where my own inspiration is taking me. And then they kind of course correct me. But it's like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I could make such a huge difference, but then I also feel like I would be stuck, pigeonholed into this thing that's going to limit my expansion later. And I'm like, I don't but do I start making a difference now, or do I wait for a bigger opportunity later? And it's
Yeah.
at the time
It's
being,
hard, right?
I'm just
And in many respects, and I must bring us to a close in a few minutes, but in many respects, we're going through this descension and ascension at the same time, right? Like we're bringing down these gifts and abilities from higher dimensions, from Source and God, and then we're by bringing them down, it means like to bring them into the physical hands of you and I. Like it is tough, right? Like I don't see my spirit guides turning up and paying my bills tomorrow. Like they're great for a chat, but like they don't do a lot around my house, and they've never done any chores for me. That said, to be fair, they do help me with DIY, and I'm very grateful for that. Whenever I'm stuck, like I was like, where do I connect this? And like do this, like oh, that's. I will ask you guys more. You seem to know a lot. So there are some practical help for sure, but it's like definitely there's that dissension part and the ascension of us. Like okay, now you have this. Now you have, even though it's a gift that isn't yet fully formed, and it can only be formed by your intention and by to some extent your understanding, and then also your ability to let go of the understanding and say it could literally change this world and this universe in ways that I can't understand at this time, and may only understand or may never understand, like even after it happens. And that when there's like that kind of non-striving, non-expectation, but with clear intention, it does feel right that yes, we can absolutely change this world. And there's an integration part, right? There's that integration of like, well, if you force it too fast and you do it too jarring to those around you, and I mean like the world, then you're right. It's very easy for them to say, oh, we'll just put you in this little crazy box and you can be like that crazy guy. Whereas there is definitely like there's this kind of glue that brings it together, and it's us, right? It's our human forms, it's our beings, it's us as guys, and going to work and being in our families and being like real humans together that allows this this manifestation of these gifts to actually help the world, help each other.
I mean, like for me, like it's one of the things I kind of use my work as a platform for is just getting my vibration in general out. Like one of the things I do, I bring it up to people all the time, and I feel like people just cannot really understand the grandeur that I put into this when I do it. But I literally will sit there and I play music all night long at work. Like I will literally sing at the top of my lungs, sometimes for 6 hours straight. And I mean, I just did it the other night. Like it took me 2 days. I almost lost my voice for 2 days because Thursday night I was going from like 10 o'clock at night to like 4:30 in the morning, just singing the entire time. I mean, like just yelling at the top of my lungs, just having a blast, literally just having my own concert. And everybody else leaves at like 1:45. That's our normal scheduled time. So then after o'clock, there's literally only like 5 of us in the building. There's literally not even anybody close enough to even hear me. And for 2 hours, I don't even care. I'm still singing. I don't care. I'm putting it out there. I know I have seen enough proof now that literally just the expression of my vibration is changing the consciousness. That's all I need. I just need to bring my light and my vibration, and I have seen it literally change the way people think without them even realizing it. And that alone is like, okay, you might not know my name yet. You don't know what I'm doing yet, but I know you feel it. Even if you don't know it yet, I know, and that's enough for me for now.
Oh, that's fabulous. Well, what a perfect subject to bring us to a close. And I want to thank you so much. And I just have these amazing visions of you like singing your ass off, like I do every day, and I'd love to like to do it at work as well. Like I think that's a beautiful message to end on. Is like bring your gifts, bring your love and your superpowers to everything you do in your day, especially your day jobs, especially our day jobs where they're like they're part of a matrix, of a machine that will greatly benefit everyone that's in it, all us humans, and everything that we interact with will greatly benefit.
It really, it opens up a well of expansion that people, and it honestly, it is disheartening sometimes because, I mean, literally, I do this routinely. I mean, at least a couple hours almost every night. It's just routinely, I will just, I just start getting bored and I just throw music on and start singing. Virtually never now in this, only like half a dozen times in the 6 years I've been there, have I ever had a person stop and either just say that was a good song or start singing it also, which to me is mind blowing because
Yeah.
I never, I would be so, it would be so compulsive to me to walk by somebody else having the time of their life and just join them. Like if I knew the song, I would not start singing. So it
Yeah.
blows me that people can walk 10 feet in front of me having a personal concert and they're just like, yep, okay. I'm like, but whatever, it's fine, it's okay. What?
It's fantastic. And you know what? It's worth, like you say, like it's worth every moment that someone feels it. And
Yeah,
we're not great yet as a planet of like expressing gratitude across all the different dimensions that we feel. So yeah, I just want to say massive thank you, Scott. Thank you for all that you do, for all your love and inspiration, and special thank you to all your work you're doing, where you're putting that beautiful energy into your work, into the implants that go into many people like you and I around the world. And if I ever need one, I'll be I'll be coming to you. I want all those high vibes in there, and I'm sure my body would greatly benefit. So yeah, thank you so much. And one last question for you, which I'd like you to answer is, if you had a message for someone watching this who's watched the whole hour and 25 minutes or so of us chatting, and they're like, this journey resonates with them, like at any stage, like what message would you have for them?
just don't give up. It really, I promise you, every single one of us have not only wanted to, but have honestly tried to give up several times. And it just hurts worse every time because the truth you have in your heart, not letting out the truth in your heart will hurt you 10 times more than any repercussions of your expression. Holding that in is what makes you depressed. Holding that in is what makes you kill yourself. It's not the arrows that are going to come from the outside. It's the knives that come from the inside. It's just what you do to yourself is so much worse. And I know that recent history has proven the opposite to you. We all know, any of us who have gone through any of our Akash, in the last couple thousand years, you've been rejected, beaten, stoned, murdered, hung, etc. And we've seen what happens. We've seen what happens to ourselves. We've seen what happens to people we care about that we give too much to, and it hurts them. But don't give up, because we are so close. You don't, if you don't realize yet how long we have worked for this, I have personally been here on this planet working for this for 300,000 years. And we are this close. It unfortunately, in a temporal world, it's still going to take years, if not decades. But on a quantum level, it's actually already happened. I can't even tell you the stories that I've heard of like seventh dimension and higher, where it's all already happened. They've already seen the reverberation where their life has already changed. It just hasn't happened on our scale yet because it happens so much slower. It's already happened. So don't give up. That's what you need to know. You've already done it. Now you just need to do it. You just need to believe in yourself and the people around you. We love you. We hold you. We are here for you. We led the way, and now we are hoping you will join us because we need you. We can't do it by ourselves. There's not enough of us yet. We're doing a lot of powerful things. We've already changed the world, but in order to change everything, we need all of us. So don't give up, because we need every single one of your lights You don't understand the difference you can make until you feel it in someone else.
Wow. Thank you, Scott. That's so powerful and so beautiful. Yeah, never, never, ever give up. Never, ever, ever give up. Keep going. Thank you. Well, take care, Scott. Thank you so much for sharing so much of your story. You're such an inspiration. And thank you for all your service. It's an honor to be on this planet at this time with you. And so excited. Let's keep in touch. Take care.
Thank you for what you do. And just really, man, I really cannot express enough how much seeing you out there every single day has meant. I don't know if enough people tell you about that specific part of it, but the every single day matters so much. As someone who has two or three times now had to take weeks, if not months, away from expressing myself because I just can't find the words to feel like I'm actually helping myself or anyone else at that time. And to know that you are probably going through just as much, if not more, in your own journey. And it just, in your own way. And to be able to know how hard it's been for me and to see you out there every single day with that joyful smile on your face and the love in your heart. It just, I mean, that more than anything is truly changing the world, brother. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind. It really inspires me to keep going, and I greatly appreciate you. Thank you. And with that, we'll close this live stream. Thank you, Scott, and thank you to everyone that's joined us, and thank you for all your amazing comments as well. I've been reading as we're going, and I'll be catching up on them afterwards as well. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Sending love.
Bye.
See you. Bye.